Stridente Meets, Jasmine Pender. Early influences.
I was probably quite a typical sort of neurodiverse, music-obsessed kid. I used to write down lyrics and listen to the same song again and again and again. I remember on a school trip somewhere, I had my Walkman and the batteries ran out and I had what I now know is a meltdown. And then one of the kids had some batteries and gave them to me. And then I was okay because I could keep listening to music. I would kind of look around me and look at people around me and things that people were doing. And I didn't really relate to much of the world around me as a, kid growing up in the suburban southeast. But I would listen to music. So I guess I'm talking now about things like Tom Waits and Nick Cave as I got a bit older. And I would listen to these sound worlds and think, yes, someone understands. So yeah, typical story really, with that kind of fantasizing and a sense of there being a world bigger than my little town through this music. I started playing violin as a kid when I was 7, and my violin teacher was an utterly charismatic, amazing guy. I was terrible at violin. My fingers are quite big. I'm not really good at fiddly things, but I loved the lessons. I would try and get him to play as much as possible, and I really just wanted to listen to him play. And then I had a chance meeting with him years later when I was at a different school, and he started teaching me cello. And straight away I adored the cello, really took to the instrument much more. And then with the electric cello, I found myself, I was out in California staying with a friend. What actually happened was I met someone in a bar one night who was looking for a cellist to join his project, just a weird chance meeting. So I decided to move to LA with him and start making music with him. So I ended up buying a cello out there and I got an electric cello. By that stage, I was listening to a lot of post-rock. I was pretty into mono and mogwai, stuff like that. And so, yeah, that kind of thick, dense fuzz of sound was something I was really interested in making. People often were trading pedals and things like this. So I managed to kind of collect pedals and cables by just being around that world for a while.
Music projects.
I played in bands, and I also had another project which I called Sometimes Jasmine. I used to play in a long wedding dress that covered my whole body. My hair would be completely in my face, so you wouldn't be able to see me. I would be this strange ghostly, like a Japanese horror movie character. I used to really enjoy playing in galleries and stuff like that. I didn't really want an audience to be sitting watching because it was more atmospheric stuff that I wanted to build up slowly. Very often ethereal stuff with lots of delay looped. So it would be a choir of angels with strings on the top. It sounded like a lovely coma, I'm sure. I did some sort of lyrical songs as well. But yeah, mostly it was soundscapes. And then the next stage in that evolution was Maximus P. I'm ashamed to say I had a prejudice about laptop music. And I found out a lot of people were using Maximus P. And it sounds nuts, but I decided to do a course in Maximus P because I wanted to have an informed opinion of why Max was so terrible in destroying live music. And I thought, well, I have to learn it. By the second class, I was hooked and, put all my pedals in a bag and started using Max and building my own stuff. You use Maximus P to kind of build your own sound worlds. Effectively, it takes data and converts it into sound. You can connect anything to anything. And some of the stuff I use it for, it's the world's slowest and buggiest way of making a loop pedal, for example. You're building it all yourself and you've got freedom to really mess things up. But it also means when you get a harebrained idea and you think, I wonder what would happen if, then you can build it. And then, the project became Rotten Bliss. And it started off actually without cello. I was using light sensors. I was using a lot of stuff with Arduino and then interactive sound and visuals. I was kind of scared of applying that to cello, I think. I wanted to just go deep into Max. And then after sort of 6 months, a year of that, then I introduced the cello into the setup. My laptop is running Max and I have that off to the side and I have an iPad controller. It looks like a pedal board and it has just buttons which I press with my toes and they initiate different sound worlds, they change effects. I also, on that same interface, have something which enables me to change the parameters on my virtual pedal board. When I reluctantly started using a laptop, it was very important to me that the laptop be off to the side and that I don't touch the laptop during the performance. That's just my approach to sound, and how I want to relate to my audience. It feels rude. It's almost like if there's someone in the room and you're on your phone. To me, it feels a bit like that. If I touch my laptop during a performance, it's weird. With Rotten Bliss, I started composing in a different way. It's a very jagged sound, and the lyrics and the words have to be very jagged, and they have to have blood in them, and they have to come from somewhere that's not your mouth. They come deeper, so they don't have the kind of structural, linear narrative sense that you would expect from something that comes from the head. A lot of it is about the sound of the word, the way the word feels in my mouth, for example, and that's more important than the word. Everything I do is very meaningful. Everything I do on stage, there's a reason why everything happens. And the project is very, very, very deep in meaning to me. The project exists because if I tried to express that stuff with words, it would be clumsy and it would sort of degrade what I'm trying to say. So I don't think I can really verbalize it. But yeah, I hope people are getting some stuff out of what I'm doing beyond the sound. The idea that noise can be musical, I think, came from just wandering around and looking at the way that life collides with itself. And it's not neat and there's not melodic structure to it. And because there's not melodic structure, it's much more meaningful. I've done little bits with people around. I have a cello duo project with Tim Bowen. He plays classical cello and we have a kind of project together. And Jowhead, we have a band together, 11th Hour Adventists. Those are sort of the two main collaborative projects. And then, yeah, I did a record with Eric Arm in Vienna a couple of years ago. And that came out on Feeding Tube last year. Andy Page did an ensemble and I came along to that. I think sometimes you end up forgetting why you got into music. When you've got your project and you're spending loads of time polishing your pieces, oh, let me debug this bit of code and doing all this stuff, and you're forgetting that a big part of it is about playing with other people. And even if it doesn't sound great, it's the stuff you learn and the interactions you have and the way of relating to people through sound. And I end up forgetting that. Oh no, I can't do this collaboration because I have to go and work on my song. And yeah, my priorities sometimes get a bit skewed like that. I get in my little rabbit hole sometimes. So yeah, that gets in the way of collaborations. But yeah, I'm really open to doing lots more.
Visual arts.
The visuals that I use in my work, that's a mixture of stuff that I've shot myself, archival footage that I've spliced together. Interesting, a lot of the archival footage I use, I purposefully never watch with the volume on. So I have an idea of what these movies are about that I splice together, but I'm not really sure. That's a really great process. I love that aspect of digital art. You can sort of bypass your conscious mind a lot when you're splicing this stuff together and you're looking at clips and kind of moving it in, almost like a guilty pleasure. When I'm doing this editing, I'm kind of thinking, this is really fun, this can't be work.
Future.
I didn't grow up listening to that much Indian music, but the density of sound and the harmonics and stuff in Indian music, I think that there are probably a lot of parallels with the stuff that I do. I have a sitar that is in terrible shape and I play very badly, but I enjoy playing very much. You know, I think that's probably an angle that I am going to explore more in future years. Not something I've really dipped into that much, but certainly I think the way that music is woven into life in India as well, that's something that I relate to a lot. I'm sort of in talks with a couple of labels about releasing some things. It's been a few years since I released something. I've got some songs I've been sitting on for too long now. I listen back and I'm thinking, maybe I should change this and this. The last album, which I haven't released yet, that I recorded with an excellent sound engineer, Paul Chivers, who actually taught me sound art at City Lit, and I really love and respect this guy. I've got a really good rapport with him. And the way we recorded those songs was we did 3 or 4 takes of each song. We used a bunch of different microphones, including one down the hallway. So we ended up with maybe 12 different mics with different takes on the sound that we mixed together to create the colour. And that to me was just a beautiful, beautiful way of recording. I do have some songs which are a bit more poppy. I mean, they're not pop, but they have melodies and everything. And if I was going to record those, then I probably would go down more of a production route, just because they would sort of benefit from that. But with the Rotten Bliss stuff, that has to be, boom, just one take. I say just one take, I mean start to finish, yeah.
Website.
My website, which needs a bit of TLC, but you should find all the links on there, rottenbliss.com. And then Facebook tends to be where I post about gigs that are coming up. There's a newsletter that you can sign up to on the website. It's every month, and I like to put lots of stuff in there about not just what I'm doing, but stuff I've been doing out in the world, field recordings, music I'd come across, other people's gigs, stuff like that. So it's just a little, like a postcard. That's probably the best thing if you want to sort of keep in touch with what I'm up to.